Howdy folks, and welcome to another episode of Stanley and the Sea Can. I think this is the most highly anticipated video of the year so far, which is exciting. And we got a lot of stuff to go through, so I thought we'd just jump right in, no fooling around. So today, we are going to officially, publicly, whatever, announce the release of our TNA SKS Magwell. So this is the polymer version that we had talked about or kind of hinted at, teased at in a previous video, where it's going to come out at a very low price point. So what I can tell you is there's two different versions where you have an FDM print, which is like the fused material deposition. It's kind of like a hot glue gun that goes crazy. So you're going to see the little baby lines in there, and we'll throw in a close-up picture of that so you can see. And then there's the SLS, which is a selective laser sintering. So it starts with a powder bed rather than like a tube. And so that this one here installed in this firearm is actually the SLS version. And so it has more of a matte look and a little bit rough around the edge. It looks like an injection molded part, really, is what you get with that. And it's going to be a little bit stronger because just the way the plastic gets melted together. But unfortunately, those plastic powders and everything else do cost a lot more. And the machines that these are made on cost a lot more. So these parts here, I believe $169.99, and the FDM ones are $89.99, less than $100. So let's dive right in. To build these things and to test them and everything else, we used a variety of magazines. So we can see here 4 different mags out here. This is probably the one that most of you are most interested in, the CPD, C Products Defense Duramag XCRL Micro Pistol Mag. Then we've got here a Duramag by C Product Defense. So it looks like about a 20 round pin to 5, or lanced, they call it. They kind of put little dents in there. And then here is a ASC, Ammunition Storage Components one. So a bit older. It's got lancing again. And then here is a Pro Mag, made in USA. So this is just like a 30 round body pinned to 5. And so what we learned throughout these experiences is there's an awful lot of variabilities between these mags. They all kind of look the same. They all kind of do the same. But the kind of the secret sauce is like the position and the angle of this rectangular hole where your mag catch arm goes into, and how these feed lips and such are moving at the top, and the length of them, and the distance between, here, and everything else, and how the follower looks. Some followers look like a big box, some are longer. They have all sorts of different things going on. So they all kind of subtly affect the variability and how this thing works. So originally, the reason why this took so long to come out, when we had first made it, and I did that teaser video probably in like April or March, it was only working with this one mag, and it didn't work with anything else. So we thought, well, that's going to be pretty frustrating to you folk if you got to buy this thing and now you got to buy all new mags. You've got a whole bunch of these at home, or you got a whole bunch of these at home, or whatever. Right? You got 2 of this, 1 of this, 1 of this, 1 of this. So we tried to keep tweaking it, keep modifying it so that we could have a solution that's got enough modularity in it that it can accommodate everything. And you can, of course, if you only run these ones or only run these ones, you can tweak it to be like absolutely perfect to your needs. And I'll show you all that in just a second. So what I wanted to say is this was designed, I figured if I've got an SKS and I wanted to kind of mess with it, I'd probably buy some sort of a plastic polymer stock like a ATI. So now we're going to go like all tactical with this, right? So we got a pistol grip, we got an adjustable buttstock, we got threaded muzzles down here, all this kind of cool stuff. Like we're kind of building this thing up to be like a super cool tactical SKS. So the way this works on the inside and how thick this is and everything else, there's a nice line on the inside of this receiver. I will open it up in a second and we'll get back to this, but it's so easy to modify. So that way there's no thinking. I was reading the comments. We received, I think it was 167 emails about these specific Magwell adapters and when are they coming out? And can I get an early prototype? Can I do this? Can I do that? How is the modification going to work? Are you going to offer them installed? Are you going to offer the milling of the receivers? All these different questions, right? So I've kind of taken all that information. Thank you so much for writing in. And we do read them, and we may not respond to every one of them, but I'm kind of using this video format to respond in general. So yes, we can mill some receivers. No, I do not want to have you send in your SKS, then have me cut it all up and put it back together, because if it's some sort of favorite SKS and I scratch it or something like that, I don't really want to have to try to fix it or deal with it. So it's much easier just to grab one from the shelf and slice and dice and do whatever it needs to do. And then if it gets screwed up, it's not a big deal, right? We just kind of grab a new one. The blemished one goes to the auction or something like that, right? So yeah, let's jump in. This is an SKS receiver. This is Chinese. The Soviet ones are very similar. They have a threaded barrel and such. What we can see here is like this was designed to be used with the duckbill magazine, right? So the duckbill kind of clips into this little dealie here and part of the trigger guard, which is missing here, or trigger group. So it would sit there, plug in. This is how it would look in your stock if you were to take it out of the stock, right? You've got your duckbill mag pinned in here. It's kind of rubbing back there. There's a little dealie on your trigger group that would kind of, the trigger group pins go through these little notches here, and there's a little latch thing that holds this down. And what we see on the inside, if we can get some lights, fantastical. This big bit up here that I'm kind of going to mark on is the receiver itself. And then this inner lip here is the top of the duckbill mag. So the duckbill mag has very, very short feed lips on it because it's kind of relying partially on the receiver to do its work. Since it has the short feed lips here, part of the receiver is cut to kind of be like a continuation of the feed lips, which is fantastic for the SKS as it was from the factory. But when we start looking at stuff like this, like a magazine we want to fit in there, we can easily see the shape of this is much more boxy, like much more rectangular. Where here we have kind of like it cuts in, it pulls in, it does a bunch of stuff. And there's other features underneath. And these feed lips on this particular magazine are a solid 3/8 of an inch longer. And so that causes some little issues. So what we need to do to install one of these bad boys is do some cutting. So let me rip this out again. Okay, so we rip this thing out through the magic of some computer generation, well, star wipe, whatever. This thing comes out, and we can see again the inside contours here. So how on earth do we make this big square box go into this little hole? You can see it's going to wipe out, and it's hitting on this big ledge here. And the back of this needs to come down a little bit. And then there's a little lip on the front that's kind of angled here, which keeps us, I don't know if we can see from the top, but this big chunk of metal right here where I'm kind of touching is kind of a little bit, I don't know, excessive for what we needed to do here. Works fantastic for the duckbill mags, but it gets in our way for running AR mags, especially if you want to do some sort of quick change type stuff. So this is basically the same thing. Now we've gone to the machine shop and we've done a little bit of milling here. So I'm showing here is different extremes of it. So this side here, essentially what you want to do is make this material that you're removing flush with this face of the inside. So you can see there's some silver bits in there that's been cut. And this black bit here is the original finish from Ivan or whoever made this particular SKS. And so again, we've got some more over here where it's been cut out, and you can go back as far as you need to. You can take it all the way back, like remove this material all the way back to there if you can, and then all the way up here. I believe this one is showing the bare minimum you can do. And so with I believe it was a 1/4 inch end mill or 6 mil end mill, close enough to each other, and I come in all the way here and then zip right across the front and back here. So this is shortening this little step that we just saw a second ago. So now it doesn't look nearly as big. Let's see if we can do it side by side. So here's the OEM configuration, and I've shaved it back a little bit here. So we can see this chamfer here is longer. This one here is just a little baby. And here's another variation between Soviet and Chinese, right? So the Chinese here is all of this cut out, and the Soviet just had a little bit in the center. But you just basically need to move all of this back, zip it out, and try to make this ledge kind of flush with, or relatively flush with the barrel. You can see there's like maybe a 25 thou, 30 thou step right there. You'll know pretty fast if you need to do more or less. So one of the questions from you fine folk was, can I make some sort of a jig or a fixture to help do this work? In the past, I've tried that, like making a tooling block that goes in there, and you could drill with carbide drills and stuff. But the drills are always like interrupted cuts, and carbide is really hard, but it also means that it's very brittle. So unless you're using some sort of a rigid setup, it just tended to break and break and break tools. So it would cost like a fortune in tools. Some of those little carbide mills can cost like 25 bucks each. It just didn't work out. So I recommend, if you don't have a milling machine, use a Dremel to just kind of grind away at this and grind away at that. And even if the surface in there isn't like super buttery smooth, it doesn't really matter, because as long as this goes in, that's what we're after. So we can see here, doesn't really go. You can see the corners want to get caught there unless you tilt the mag a certain way, and it goes in, and that's great. And then it's the next part up here is going to get caught on here. I suppose if you wanted to modify your mags rather than your SKS, you could just start hacking and slicing a bunch of the metal out of here, the front of it. And as long as you don't upset this rectangular hole here for the mag catch, you should be okay. And that'll get you around a lot of this stuff. So with this guy here, that's been milled, I can see he goes in nice and deep, and he sits in there pretty good. And he's got it's a little bit loose side to side, but that's okay. The Magwell fixes all that. So we'll call that a stage 1 modification. So if you do that to your SKS magazine well, you'll be able to now run these mags. There could be some issues depending on which brand and stuff like that of mags you use, where when you close the bolt, this particular type of firearm is a tilt-in bolt, right? So as it's closing, this is the bolt. It's going to jump downwards. Like it has a good jump down, 100th thou or more, to be the lock face, right? So that's going to then hit the back of your magazine. It kind of gets in the way up here and does a bunch of stuff. And I've also milled the bolts, the wings off, which we talked about in a previous video. But let me just take this apart real quick and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so remember we just take this little knob here, or lever thingy, and rotate it. It was stuck on that detent, so it's kind of like springs to it. It's kind of flex it up, slide it up, so it's roughly vertical. And if you kind of wiggle it, it'll come out. And there's a little pin kind of pressed into this shaft here that's going to interface with the cover. So once you do that, you kind of feel it goes click. All this comes off. So there's that little pinhole I was talking about. So we can rip all of this out. Gravity is your friend when playing with these things. So the modifications that I've done to the bolt to give it a bunch of extra capabilities here is I've taken the sides off. And the reason for that is so that it can easily fit through the top of these magazine feed lips. The AR-15 STANAG magazine feed lips are much tighter in the middle than an SKS one. And we can see that the OEM bolt, so here is the duckbill mag that would have come with it. So the bottom of the bolt and all of its guts would have kind of gone through, there, and it locks in. So now this will still work just fine with this, but you'll be able to remove your duckbill with it, with the bolts closed as well. So no big deal. But because of the tilting bolt face on here, this was, I was trying to do this in such a way that anyone can replicate this at home. So when this goes in here and then the bolt tilts down to lock it, it kind of jams on some stuff. So some of these mags have, this was a trial, looks like I modified the mag here, right? So it has these little metal dealies. Sometimes you can see the difference. This one I've opened up nice and wide, and this guy here has little legs that are kind of sitting on the side. So this is how all of your mags are probably sitting now. So they're going to get in the way of your bolt tilting. So if you want to just be able to run any magazine, you would have to then take a little relief cut way here off the back of the bolt. Don't want to go too deep because it's kind of thin there. And this is the locking surface right here, the locking surface. And this has got our upgraded firing pin in it with the spring and everything else. That's a future release. Little teaser there for you. But yeah, so this cutout here allows it to, when it tilts back, it slides in the magazine, and then it can go forward to its full forward position, which is about there, and then tilt down. And by doing that, now you can insert and remove a magazine on a closed bolt, and it doesn't do anything funny or funky when you close it. Okay, so let's take a look at how this thing actually works. So this one is in place, but it's not tightened in. So at the back, this is the little dealy switch thing that holds the duckbill mag in place with the pin up there. So we're kind of replicating that the same way everyone else has done in the past. So we've got a little clampy thing here. And one of our improvements on this design versus other ones is instead of having just a straight hole drilled through this big boss thing, we put a slot. And so that allows you to kind of get this where it needs to go. Then you can use your Allen key and kind of torque it. This is an M5 Allen key. So you can kind of torque this like that and slide the whole thing forward. And then when you tighten it down, you don't necessarily need to file this. So if this was the installation length required for, or the position required, this length might be too long. So in other designs that are in the market, they'd want you to file this down or cut it or whatever to make it fit. So we've added in a kind of a cool slot feature. So now you can just move it up and down wherever you need to go. And then when you find that perfect sweet spot, right there, instead of having to file it there, you just tighten and boom, it's locked. It's not going anywhere. The width of these things is kind of set so that it fits the groove in the receiver quite tightly. We had done some experimentation making these wider, and it didn't really fit, didn't work out very well. So we went back to this thinner design, which is the same thickness of everyone else. So from the side profile here, all the other ones that are made of metal, they're just like kind of like a boxy look, and they don't have anything cool in the front. They're two pieces, the screws all on the side. They got a bunch of weird stuff going on there. That's fine, but they are heavy because they're made of metal. There's lots of metal in there, and they're really boxy looking. So we've added in some cool finger grips on the front there, with a little bit of texture. Feels nice. You can grab onto it. And of course, a big, massive flared magwell, which is what I think everyone's after. So, you know, you kind of stab at your magazine however it needs to go, and it just goes right in, right? No big deal. And in order to assemble these things now, with the flared magwell, the traditional design has these things here, the mag catch arm. It's special. It's got its own geometries and lengths. It's not the same as an AR-15 or anything, but you'd have to like kind of compress a long set screw that kind of goes through this button into here, and then spin it on. And by spinning it on, it now crashes into this big feed lip, or the magwell flared lip. So we've made a kind of an interesting strategy for a two-piece design. So you can just kind of install it basically through a screw here. So when you get them, they're all installed like this. This is already kind of in there and loose, and this piece here is fully assembled. But there's a long screw that goes right through there, and then it interfaces with this mag catch. And the mag catch is quite long. It comes down to, I can see it about there. I mean, you can't see it in the camera, but it comes down about that deep. So it's really, really thick metal there, which is nice because we got a little set screw going through there. And to tighten it all up, if you don't have this super tight, when you try to push this button, this thing kind of has a tendency to bend. It kind of wants to like wobble in on the front tip, and that's where your squared off little latches. So that's the piece there that's going to interface with the rectangular hole in the magazines. So that is, less than ideal. So we put another screw in there to jam it all and bind it all. So it essentially makes it function as one piece, and it's nice and smooth. You can hear a little bit of the roughness of the plastic rubbing against the metal, but it will wear in as you use it. So those are kind of some of the big performance changes of this. Of course, the price is substantially cheaper, and yeah, so you get a stronger one of these. This is milled and machined in Ontario, Canada, so 100% made in Canada. This is any standard AR-15 style STANAG mag button, so you could swap it out with like a Magpul or Strike Industries or whatever else, just kind of thread it out of there, and away you go. And yeah, so you have a lot more options for buttons, so if you want oversized or whatever else. We're not currently offering a left side mag release button, but I guess that's something we could consider in the future if there's enough interest for it. But yeah, so that's kind of what we've got with this and how it works. The only substantial difference, so this is the SLS piece. The only difference between this and the FDM one is the FDM is substantially cheaper, and you'll see a little bit of lines. We'll have a close-up picture, like I said, to show you the difference of how that looks. But if you want something that looks and feels more like our injection molded part, this is your option. I believe this is nylon 12 CF is what this is made of. And the other one, the FDM one, I believe is like a PLA type thing. So let me grab the receiver out of this firearm. So we're just going to need a quick sec. So if we were going to open this guy up, this is the ATI stock. So you'd have a couple screws in the bottom. You take all this assembly off. And then now we have exposed, just as normal, right down here is our little trigger group assembly or disassembly latch. So you got to make sure the safety is on, which is this guy, right? So that's fire mode, that's safe mode. And then once you have that, you can use a cartridge, dummy, of course, and push on that little hole that's down there. It'll be more clear to show in a second. But if we push on that, dig it out, we just got to flex it in, and then the trigger group will come right out. Alrighty, so now that we've done a little bit of tinkering there and ripping on stuff, now we can just, we got that little latch out. You can see it nicely now with the lighting. So it's got that little spring dealy that's right here on the receiver was going through that trigger group. So we can just kind of rip this out. There we go. It's in there tight for some reason. Anyway, there we go. Trigger group out. And then this just kind of folds out of the stock or pulls out of the stock like you'd expect. And there we go. ATI stock removed. So again, I've left this dirty just to show you like just how awesome the SKS is for dealing with dirt. Look at all this grime and stuff in there from the machines. And it doesn't care. It just goes. Big nasty burr there. Probably shouldn't be there, but the point of this is just, yeah, I know how to clean it, but It's so robust. It's such a cool design and simple. So here we can see I've come all the way back, milling as far as I could there, and then all the way forward again, leaving just a little witness there and kind of chasing or feeling for the side here, and then being as close as you can to that, right? As long at the end of the day, as long as your magazine easily fits in there, you are good to go. So the ATI stock on the inside has this nice and pretty ledge, and then you can kind of see there's a step it kind of goes in for the bottom. So this shiny surface here, I just kind of came off there with an end mill, and I used a 1/2-inch end mill, and I just kind of zipped over here, went down a little bit, cleaned up a bit. You can use a 1/2-inch drill or a Dremel, same thing on this side. If you go a little bit too deep, it doesn't matter. Again, I was testing all sorts of different things here. Yes, it looks butchered. Yes, it looks like Bubba got at it, but I'm trying to do this in such a way that, you know, the average person watching this probably doesn't have a CNC machine, probably doesn't have fancy end mills and setup instruments and indicators and all that stuff. So let's just see how this is going to work if you're just kind of butchering your way through it. That was my plan. And as you can see, I was highly successful in butchering. But anyway, coming off this ledge, and we're just kind of machining away the plastic that's in here and all the way through. And so when you do that, your Magwell adapter ends up sitting in here pretty perfect. And this radius right here on the front was set to be 1/4 inch, which means you can use a 1/2-inch tool. And as you put that in there, this sits about like that when it's fully installed. If you try really hard, it's nice and tight. And if you just kind of go a little bit wobbly, yeah, you'll see a little tiny gap there. And it doesn't look the prettiest, but it's fully functional and it works, and you were able to do it with like a file or something at home. No big deal. The more time and effort you spend doing this, the better. But this is just, again, proof that you can just kind of bubble your way through it. You can do this yourself at home. It's going to take some time. You're going to cut your fingers. You're going to pinch yourself. But yeah, you can do it. I have faith in you. Yeah, that's how that's just going to look on there. And then we'll go back to this example here that I had, because this guy's got, you know, the bolts and the carriers and stuff kind of match each other. So let's put this in there. So this is, again, our bolt that is got the little lips on the side milled off, and it's got a little cutout here in the back of the magazine. This would be like a stage 2 build or whatever. The more you want to work this, the better. So we can stick that guy in there, and then the cover is going to slide on here. Pull this up like this. So yeah, I guess didn't intend to be like this, but we're kind of getting to the point where we got like a whole bunch of DIY SKS stuff. So you turn your wood frame firearm into a plastic tactical with detachable magazines, threaded muzzles, all that kind of stuff. Do it all yourself at home. Okay, so this is working. So I'm going to trigger the bolt catch by hand just to kind of keep that out of my way for now. And so there we go. We've got all the milling done to the receiver and such. So we can take our SKS Magwell adapter, dry fit it on here so that this latch on the front, this clamping piece, is going to kind of bite in there into that same latch as your duckbill would have done. Get it to position, and then this little guy here, which is your magazine catch, or the duckbill catch, is going to clamp onto this little ledge we've got in here. And yeah, so it goes there, and clip it in. You can kind of force it forward or whatnot, but now it's kind of locked, but it's still loose. You've got lots of ability to move it forwards and backwards, which is great for in the installation portion, but not so great for actually using. So we're going to stick any mag, empty mag, in here, and it locks in nicely with the mag catch. And kind of slide it back just a little bit so that it's kind of touching, the mag's on a curve, right? So up in this area here, the mag is basically touching the receiver. It has a little bit of wobble in there. Again, that's for the ability to accommodate mags from different manufacturers and stuff. I got my Allen key. This is a 5mm Allen key. I'm pulling it forward, and then I'm going to turn it down. So that's going to lock that little clamp in nice and tight. And there we go. So now it's locked in there, and we've got our magazines. So nice and easy there. So we didn't need to file anything, grind anything. It just drops right in, and then we push our button, magazine drop. They may not all drop free depending on which ones you have, but that's what we got. Mag catch does work, or the empty bolt catch. Sorry. So if the mag's empty, so right now we can close it, and it's, it's closed. If we stick a mag in on a closed bolt, it goes in nicely, locks in nicely. We cock this back. There it goes. It's been able to activate the bolt catch in there. So now you got your bolt locked open on your last round. And then you can, just, like I said, push the button, it drops right in. And yeah, So if we run to some snap caps, so let's try to do this as hard as possible. So we got the mag is open, that catch is out of the way. So as far as the firearm knows, it needs to chamber something. So we'll stick our magazine with a snap cap in there. So on the closed bolt, the magazine latched in there good. He's home. So there's nothing in the chamber. There's nothing in this area, but there is a magazine with one snap cap sitting right here, right? So as we cock it, and we can let it go. And then, of course, this is a military surplus type thing. You don't want to baby it forward. You want to let it descend it. So there we go. We had a loaded cartridge. It kicks it out at the end. And there we go. It's caught on our mag catch, and you can whip it out. And there you go. So now we've successfully, with this setup, made it all work for this Duramag. So to make minor modifications to work for different magazines, so if that's the most common one you have, it's good. Here's the XCRL magazines. So it has a slightly different shape, slightly different geometries. So what we want to do is put this in. We can loosen this screw off a tiny bit, slide it back just a touch, slide it back up, tighten it back up, and now there she goes. She worked with that one, and bolt catch didn't catch. That's okay. This is something that could happen to you at home. So we're just going to make another slight modification here. We're going to move it back a tiny bit. So what we want to have happen here is the magazine needs to tickle the bolt catch of the firearm. And that guy's in there good. Let's see. There we go. Bolt catch works. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how all this stuff works. It's got enough modularity and adjustability in all these different places that you can make it function with many different types of magazines. They may all work. You may find that your Pro Mags and your ASC mags work perfectly together, or your two different types of CPD mags work perfectly together, or whatever you need to do. You can make minor adjustments just by adjusting this 5mm. It's an M6 thread, but it's got a 5mm Bex on the top, and slide it forward and everything else. It's very similar to your standard SKS Magwell adapters that you can get from other places. So if you find that this is what you want to do and you don't want it to be finicky or anything else, and this is exactly what, you can put epoxy or whatever on here, fill it all up. And you want to make sure during the installation process, there's a little shelf here. So you want it to be about the same on both sides. You don't want to have this thing kicked all the way over to one side or another. It shouldn't really let you do that based on the geometries and everything else, but who knows, right? Every SKS is different. They're all custom, basically, right? Unique from the factory. Wow, look at all the markings this guy has. He's had a lot of hands on him. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. And again, it would slide into the stock nicely. You'd have to build the stock around the firearm first and then install this later. But once you've got all this dry fit done, you can make any markings that you need on here and like alignment positions or whatnot. And maybe even use the screw as a set, and they could put a little tiny gouge there or whatever, so you can line it up exactly how you wanted it. And if for whatever reason you're running a totally different type of magazine that we don't have here, you can, if this is just polymer, right? So you don't like how this feels, you could cut it this with a knife or a pocket knife or whatever, a file. It cuts this stuff like butter, right? And it's all good. Then these pieces here, they're steel. So this is steel, this is steel. They should last forever, basically, for your life of your use. If not, we're offering everything. Every single little piece is a spare. So have no fear in ordering that, oh, this is going to be obsolete or whatever else. It's like, we've got all the little parts and pieces. So if you want to have 2 of these, 3 of these, whatever, you can get everything you need to. And yeah, the more you use it, the more it'll wear in, and everything it just kind of feels fantastic, right? So there we go. Different mag, just locks right in. So I think it's a slick design. It took probably triple the R&D we had anticipated on this, because it was basically working for one mag in April or March. And to make it work and be adjustable enough to accommodate everything, that was a lot of work. So I know you guys appreciate that kind of effort that we put into it. But so here we go. This is the final iteration. So we're marketing these right now as beta prototypes. So we've tested them. They work great. They do everything, as you can see here. You can change different magazines, different types of magazines, all those different things. And with these modifications to the receiver, you can still go back to your standard duckbill magazine if you want to, that is. So I would recommend having 2 stocks, and like buying a cheap ATI stock kit for $100 or whatever they cost might be the way to do that. Yeah, that's how you're going to put a Magwell on your tactical SKS. At some point, we'll be offering machined receivers that are in these ATI stocks. So machine stock and machine receiver for the Magwells, but it's a lot of time and kind of farting around, even with fixtures and stuff, breaking down the machine setups from whatever they're making now to do this, it's probably going to be around $250 extra cost to do the modifications. But yeah, I think you can do it at home. It's going to take some time. You're going to want carbide. These some of these pieces of the receiver and the bolts and stuff, especially, they are very, very hard, like in 60 Rockwell range, I believe. So what that means is your drill bits, it's probably harder or as hard as your drill bits, a standard drill bit or high-speed steel, HSS tools. So you're going to want to use something that's harder, like carbide. And yeah, you just kind of send it and go slow. Remember, you can always cut more off, but you can't really add it back very easily. I guess you could TIG weld or MIG weld in there, but then you're going to have heat issues and whatnot. So don't weld in there if you don't have to. But yeah, for the most part, just nice and slow, keep it simple, and don't rush it, and you will be just fine. I've done a couple of these by hand in the past. There's even a vintage YouTube video of me kind of grinding at one. Yeah, you're going to get little metal slivers in your fingers. So my fingers are always like gray or brown or whatever, because it's like little tiny slivers that are rusting in there. But it's part of the experience. So this could be, and SKS is still a nice cheap platform. So if you wanted to get into home gunsmithing or try it all out, I give this something like an 8 or 9 out of 10 to do all this installation work. And then, you know, if you want to thread the muzzle like this here with the muzzle threading tools, this would be the 9/16 thread. So it looks nice and deep and gnarly. It's relatively easy to cut. You just want to use a good cutting fluid on there, and then, yeah, send it. All right, guys, this 5-minute video is probably stretching to half an hour or so by now. So let's call her quits there. And please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And if you find anything when you're installing these or making it work to make it work better, if you could send us that feedback, that would be great. And we can incorporate that into future models and whatnot. And I think based on the 160 some odd people who've emailed in, there seems to be a fair bit of interest in this. So let's keep it going. Let's make this thing Canada's new, like Grandma said from Red Green, if she doesn't find you handsome, she better find you handy.